Alright, man, let's get to this. How you been?
I've been doing freaking amazing, my good sir. How about yourself?
It's been pretty good. And you know what?
Yeah?
We're back for another episode.
Yeah, we are. This is episode 23, isn't it?
That's right. 23 of CLG Faithful Podcast.
Yeah, 3 weeks away from going consistently for 1.5 year. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty good for us, I gotta say.
It's been a fun time.
All right. Yeah, it has been actually. It's been a good time. We'll have to do like something special for the final one.
Yeah,
or like for that 1 year anniversary thing. We'll have to do something like that.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I am Nefarious. I'm the host of the CLG Faithful Podcast, and you're hearing is my lovely co-host.
I'm Archer and Guys. Hello, hello.
All right, and we go over all things CLG every single week, no matter how little or how much.
Yeah, like this week, not a whole lot happened. There's no League of Legends per se. There is some NA Rift Rival stuff that we are gonna have some juicy stuff on. But yeah, it's been a good week.
Yes, let's start with League.
Let's start with League.
Rift Rivals happened. Forget about the other regions. It's all about NA and EU. EU fans, they were shit-talking us all over since Worlds, and now I can finally say this without getting shit-talked back. I thought NA was the better team at Worlds. I thought EU had a very favorable matchup for semifinals, or to get to semifinals. And guess what? NA's better than EU.
NA beat EU. There's no comparison. It wasn't even equal.
Man, it was the perfect tournament. It was would you say it was a 5 out of 7?
Yeah, I'd say it was a perfect
15 out of 21.
A perfect 5 out of 7, I think, is the meme the young kids use. Oh man, it wasn't even a contest. It was basically it was mainly TSM versus the world. Right. But so Phoenix won. Holy crap!
Yeah, so just to give a bit of context. Anything. North America sent the 3 top teams of last split. That was TSM, Cloud9, and Phoenix won. Yep. And EU sent their 3 top teams of the previous split, which was G2, the Unicorns of Love, and Fnatic. And G2, they made a deal with the devil that they would be good in EU, and then they'd be cursed to be bad at International. And then they made another deal to be good at International, but then they'd suck in their region. And I guess they've wished upon the monkey's paw one too many times.
I think so. I think we need XPEK mid again.
I think they do. Fnatic was an interesting case, right? Because they were expected to be one of the strongest teams in Europe. And
absolutely.
They had an interesting playstyle with the Reckless Kennen split push.
Yep.
And Unicorns of Love were just a very scrappy team.
I mean, Fnatic seemed to any time Kennen wasn't banned, it seemed like Reckless was going, or Reckles, sorry, his name, it is Reckles, I believe.
Reckles or Reckless, depends who you ask.
Yeah, who knows. Anyways, I believe that he played Kennen almost any time that it wasn't banned.
Something like that.
Almost every time he picked it, they shit the bed.
Yeah, NA actually exploited Fnatic's playstyle quite well.
Quite a lot. They decimated.
But let's mention since we have to, Cloud9. What's going on with Cloud9?
Who knows? Okay, to be fair, Cloud9 went 3-3, bottom of the barrel for NA. But Unicorns of Love, the top team in EU, they went 3-3. So the worst showing by NA was tied with the best showing of EU. That just gives you an idea of how badly EU got crushed in this tournament.
Well, I don't think that gives you the sense. You know what I think gives you the sense? Mike Young. Mike, rookie of the split Young.
Man, that guy went ham in almost every single game. I think there was the 2 games that Phoenix won lost. He was obviously the best player on his team, but it was just he went ham in all 6 games. And the 4 wins that Phoenix 1 got were just, it was Mike Young. Mike Young versus the world.
Hey man, I mean, in NA, Mike Young was playing 1v5 Now he actually got to play 5v5.
Yeah, exactly. He finally got to play 5v5 and kind of show.
He got to play League of Legends.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that guy's a monster.
He is.
Especially on Italy.
Yep. Oh, God. It's an insta-ban. It's basically like Aurelian Soul for Huhi.
It's not reached that level yet. Not yet.
I think it hasn't gotten to that legacy of Aurelian Soul level yet, but every time I've seen this guy on playing Italy, it's been just brutal.
I mean, we do still play Phoenix 1 later on in the split, so that is something we are going to have to consider. And they no longer look like the really weak team that they were that was just flopping around.
Yeah, because they had a really strong start this season. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're tied for first for a little while. And then we go on a 5-game losing streak. And you're like, geez, man, what happened? You didn't change anything. Oh, well. So we have to give props. We do have to mention and give props to Team Solo Mid.
Yeah, congrats. They showed up at an international tournament.
They finally didn't shit the bed internationally.
I mean, this one doesn't matter, so,
Exactly. There was TSM won an international event. Asterisk. It didn't actually matter though.
Just like the IEM that they won. Oh, the one that didn't matter.
Oh, we need to tweet that out or something like that. Oh gosh, yeah, it did. I mean, TSM showed up. No one expected anything from NA at all. If you looked at our League of Legends subreddit before NA Rift Rival started, everyone was like, "Oh, EU is going to crush us." Right. We're sending
if anything,
we're sending
it was
middle.
Expected that TSM would maybe do something and maybe take some games, but then probably lose to Fnatic, who was the expectation for the finals.
Yeah, but then because it was essentially middle of the pack at roughly TSM has kind of won a bunch of games. They had a bit of a slump.
I mean, they're arguably they're in top 2 for NA.
Exactly.
For sure.
But Phoenix 1, Cloud9, very middle of the pack right now, and EU was sending some of their top 3 teams from both splits. So last split, these were the top 3 teams, but this split, they were also being the top 3 teams.
Keep in mind, Phoenix 1 coming into this was not a middle of the pack team.
No, they're in 8th, I believe.
7th or 8th.
Yeah, kind of sad, but yeah. And then NA just kind of said ha 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 and crushed the living crap out of EU.
So the real winners here are the memes.
Exactly, the memes. There's no more question. NA beats EU. There's no more of this debate at all. Riot has finally settled it once and for all. Middle of the pack NA beats top of the pack EU.
Honestly, this is actually pretty good, I think, for both regions. EU will definitely have to go back to the drawing board, and they should most definitely improve from this. NA, TSM looks like they're actually getting their mojo. They got their mojo back, and
definitely
we faced TSM in the very last game of the split in North America.
I'm looking forred to that.
So that should be a really fun series.
It's always one of those things where Riot does their best to kind of give that kind of finale for League of Legends, and what better finale than CLG versus TSM?
In the NA Classico.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know what? No one knows what's going to happen next split, so this could potentially be the very last time CLG and TSM meet up. It's very unlikely that they're not going to get franchised, but you never know. You never know.
Right. Yeah. But I think it'll be a really good indicator to see who's the best in NA.
It will be, because it'll probably come down to being, especially at the end of the split, it's probably going to be TSM and CLG head-to-head for first place. And I really hope that it comes down to it, that it is CLG versus TSM for that first place seed. I think that would be awesome.
Well, right now, CLG is 1 game up on TSM in terms of total victories. Their first. Yes. TSM, I believe, is 3rd right now. Yep. After Immortals. But then TSM, as of now, is 1-0 against us in series. So we do need to beat them. Because if they were to beat us, it'd be 2-0, and if we were tied, they would take the first place seed.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Yes, let's move on. We can move on to some of that sweet Counter-Strike news.
Yeah, why don't you tell us what's going on, CSGO?
Yeah, so there wasn't actually any CSGO played this week, unfortunately. However, they are looking for some CSGO strategic coaches. So they're looking for positional coaches. You know, you got your fragger, you got your entry fragger, you got your opper, and then you got your support guys. So they're kind of looking for some positional coaches for that because as we have known from last week, I'mAPet did end up leaving CSGO behind. Unfortunately, he went somewhere else. I'm not 100% sure where again, but we did hear some things like Optic. So it does suck.
I think it was Optic.
Yeah, I believe so as well, but I haven't seen any confirmation. So hopefully he's doing well. So if you are looking for that, we will put it in the show notes underneath. If you think you are an amazing CSGO player, why don't you throw your resume at him?
Yeah, they do actually have qualifications, so please do read them.
Yeah, please do. Don't just throw a bunch of crap towards the CLG guys. They have enough on their hands already.
Yeah, so let's move on to Smash.
Yes, so we actually have both Melee and Wii U coming up, so that's pretty awesome.
Genesis
Lots of
Red.
stuff. Yeah, we had Genesis.Red for the Melee guys, and then we had the 2GG ARMS Saga, which was for the Wii U or Smash 4. That one actually had some ARMS competition in it. So we'll touch on that in a sec, but we will do the Genesis.Red tournament first. So this is a preparation tournament almost for EVO. EVO is happening next week. It is the largest fighting tournament in the world. So every fighting game that has an esports going is going to be there, and you can bet your money that Melee and Smash 4 are going to be some of those top games there. They're going to be the most watched ones, hands down.
Yeah, if you love fighting games, this is just nothing short of amazing for you.
It is, and it's happening July 14th to 16th, so that is coming up this freaking weekend. Tune into that on Twitch or watch the VODs later on YouTube if they have them, because, man, they are going to be some intense matches.
Yeah.
And all our boys are going, SFat, PewPewU, Void, and NAKAT, and they will be doing singles and doubles. All right, so we will get on to the Genesis.Red stuff.
So do you want to start with Melee or do you want to start with Wii U?
We're going to start with Melee.
All right, let's get to it. Tell us how does SFat do?
Yeah, so SFat, we're going to start with singles here. In round one of his pools, he played I Play For Fun LOL, who actually didn't show up to play SFat and got disqualified. So
this will become a common theme.
SFat. It is going to become a common theme, unfortunately. Round two of his pool, game two of his pools was against Jerbear, who he beat cleanly 2-0. He then beat 4D 2-0. He then beat Jib 2-0. He then beat Maybe 2-0, kind of getting the thing here. And then in his winner semifinals for pools, he actually came up against Hugs, who is a pretty big guy, like a big name player, and a Samus player at that, which historically, SFat has not had a really good time playing against Samus's, but he had a clean 3-1 victory against Hugs. Really well done there. So that bumped freaking SFat into the winner's bracket right away. Top 6 semifinals, where he faced off against Crush and crushed him 3-1. It was fantastic. That actually worked really well. Crushed Crush. Then in the top 3, SFat dominated Shroomed 3-0. And then to the grand finals. So again, this is SFat versus the finalist of the loser's bracket. So the loser's bracket has to beat him twice. In match 1, SFat actually ended up losing 2-3 against DizKidBoogie, who is the finals. It was really close. Watching this game, it was just like, holy crap, is SFat throwing? And then SFat decided to come back in round 2 of the grand finals. And guess what? Boom, crushed DizKidBoogie 3-1. He was like, ha, just get your hopes up there, bud.
Dude, ice climbers, man.
Yeah, those ice climbers, they are scary because if they get a grab on you, they can just chain the damage over and over and over and over until you're like, you're insta kill. Yeah, and you're just like, you just put your controller down and start like, you clean your hands off. You just wait for them to finish because there's nothing you can do.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we'll move on to PewPewU.
There was a joke about the ice climber. Like, if they ever get a grab onto you, like, yeah, you just put your controller down, you go, maybe grab some food, drink a beer. You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything for that stock.
You're not doing anything for that stock at all. So that means that, guess what? SFat got first place.
Hell yeah.
Hells yeah, man. Congratulations to SFat, man. You freaking dominated, man. Well done. So, just so you know, PewPewU in Melee singles, he never actually showed up to play singles. He said he would, signed up for it, ended up not showing up, which was actually pretty common at this event because EVO is next weekend. A lot of the gods said initially that they were going to go, but then they all kind of dropped out last minute. I guess PewPewU didn't because he wanted to play in the doubles with SFat. So he didn't end up playing in singles. Funny thing here, though. So in his pools, he got disqualified, so he instant loss on his first match against Digimon. And then so that knocks him into the losers bracket of pools, which both him and his opponent Ringler got disqualified for not showing up for a match. So because PewPewU is the higher player seed in the ranking, like the external rankings, PewPewU actually got the instant win, and so he got to move on to round 2, which he didn't show up for.
That's hilarious.
And his opponent F12 ended up getting the auto win. I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, why is he a 3? And then I looked at the bracket and I was like, oh, because no one showed up to play that match. Oh, well done. All right, so we'll move on to Melee doubles. So PewPewU and SFat both showed up to play Melee doubles, which is awesome. So in their pools, PewFat ended up beating Henrius and Asian Sun 2-0. They also beat BR Tarolg and Blue Fox XT 2-0. And then they ended up beating Silent Spectre and Tang 2-0 as well to get them into the winner's bracket. Then in the winner's bracket against Chillin' Dude and Chew Dat, holy crap, they crushed these two 3-0. Really, really well done by those guys. Then in the top 3 of winners finals, they ended up coming up against Leffen and Ice. So Leffen only showed up to play doubles, so did Ice. Unfortunately, they did lose this one 3-1 for Leffen and Ice, which knocked them back down into the losers bracket. But that sends them right into the losers finals, which was against Shroomed and S2J, who they cleanly swept 3-0. Then in the grand finals against, Leffen and Ice, it was a very, very close match down to the wire. I believe there was only 2 stocks left on both sides. Unfortunately, Leffen and Ice became the grand champs, winning it 3-2. So SFat and PewPewU getting a great second place finish right before EVO. I think that is going to be a huge confidence boost for those two guys. And coming into EVO, they are really going to show up.
Man, it still feels bad, though.
It does. I kind of wish PewPewU had actually done the singles and maybe they had gotten in first place. But you know what? It was a good showing.
Yeah, I definitely hope that there is a rematch at EVO. And this time, it's a CLG win. 3-0. That's all I ask. That's all I ask.
All we want. 3-0 sweep. Good stuff. Yeah, so we'll move on to the Wii U stuff. So both NAKAT and Void were playing as well at EVO. We'll start with NAKAT here. So in his pools, he beat Terasu 2-0. He beat Wonderbread 2-1. And then he had a clean game against Fallen, who he actually usually struggles with because Fallen plays Rosalina. And historically, NAKAT has played very poorly against those. So Rosalina is the one that has the little star that follows her around and kind of kicks butt with it. He ended up beating him 2-0. In the winners round 1, though, he did end up losing to Charlie the King 2-3. He even pulled out his pocket Marth for that fight, so that's how you know things got real. Then that means he gets knocked into the losers rounds. So in losers round 2, he knocked out K9S Bruce 3-2. Then, in losers round 3, he faced off against Ken, who is a Sonic main, and unfortunately, he did lose 1-3. Therefore, NAKAT finishes 13th. So, not an awful showing by NAKAT. Better than a couple of his previous ones, and you can definitely see that he's improving and really kind of putting that like push into getting to Evo. So it was nice to see him playing right before Evo, so he can kind of hone up his skills, and I think he's going to get high in Evo.
So is it just me, or do you ever just get annoyed whenever you lose to a Sonic? Like,
yeah, I think
it just feels annoying. It
feels annoying because you're just like, damn it, Sonic, stop it.
I know.
Stop doing that stupid spin. Stop it. Stop spinning. Stop spinning, Sonic. God damn it, Sonic. And then you're like, okay, I lost. Well,
and then the stupid hidden runs.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Anyways, we'll move on to Void. In his pools, Void beat Nexus and Zartzu. Yes. 2-0. And then he beat Lazy Boredom 2-1. Coming out of his pools into the winners round 1, Void beat his nemesis Tweak 3-2. Tweak is a Cloud main, and man, every time those guys meet, it is a super close matchup. Luckily this time, our man Void, he freaking beat him 3-2. In the winner's quarters, though, he did face off against Zero, and the stupid Diddy Kong, man. Diddy Kong in Smash 4 is ridiculous. He did end up losing 0-3-0. So, knocked into the losers round, he faced off versus Cosmos and cleanly beat him 3-1. Next up on the chopping block was Sue, who he beat 3-1. And then into the top 6 losers quarters, he faced off against his buddy Komirakiri. Those guys have played quite a few times in doubles together, and beat him 3-1. Then, in the loser semis, he faced off against Ken. Unfortunately, Ken seems this weekend to be the anti-CLG, and Ken ends up beating Void 3-2. So none of that sweet, sweet vengeance he could have got for NAKAT. Therefore, that means that Void finishes 4th place, which is a pretty good showing for an event. Top 4 is never bad for a freaking finishing spot.
Right. So that coming up then, we do have the doubles in which we had Voidcat.
Yeah.
So immediately off in their pools, Void and NAKAT, they go up against ESI and Mia's Food. You know, I feel like I mentioned every single time, I love the Smash names.
People have some of the best names in Smash. I don't know why.
Or the most random, or the most interesting.
Or the most random, or just like why would you name yourself that?
Alright, he also went up against NC Jacob T.
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
No. And then NC Jacob T and K9's Bruce. And then lastly, they bring it's the Ken and EIM combo. Yeah. And this, they went respectively 2-0, 2-0, and 2-1. So from there, they move on into the winner's semis top 6. And then they lost against... how do I say these names? I don't know.
It is Kameme and Abadango.
Kameme and Abadango.
Kameme, yes. Or you could say Kameme.
Want to say Kameme. I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure.
It is Kameme every time I hear it on stream.
Well, unfortunately, they do lose this 1-2. And this knocks them down to the losers bracket. From there, they face off against Cosmos and Tweak. And unfortunately, they actually put their run to an end, and they lose this 1-2.
Yeah.
And this means that our boys place in 5th.
Yeah, not a bad showing at all for doubles, especially with NAKAT going out 13th in singles. Yeah, not bad. And as we promised, there was some ARMS at this tournament. This tournament was called 2GG ARMS Saga for a reason. Yes, ARMS is... They're trying to make it an esport. I think it's going to end up being something like Melee was to Nintendo, where Nintendo was like, no, Melee is never going to be an esport. It is not supposed to be competitive. No one's allowed to play this game competitive. And we're never going to sponsor and give you ever a cent to play this game. And then people are like, well, that's fine. Our prize pools won't be, like $1 million. But people just play Smash for fun. And then some people get really, really good at it. And yeah.
They get way too good at it.
Like, I mean... Melee is just ridiculous. The amount of ridiculousness that comes to playing Melee, like there's just so much broken in that game, and since it's never gotten patched, really, like unless you bought like an updated, like, you know, except for if they like released it in PAL and the PAL got a patched version like a few years later on a disc, and everyone decided to use that version, which is actually funny because there are differences. Well, there are differences.
I know there is, but I thought the
PAL
US NTSC version was the most common one.
The NTSC version is the most common. However, if you play in Europe, they do use the PAL version. And I believe PewPewU has played in Europe and played on the PAL version and not had a bad showing.
So how does that work for anyone that comes overseas? They would just do whatever their region they're in, correct?
Yeah. So a lot of the time, those guys will have an NTSC version. If they're coming to North America, they will be playing on the NTSC version a lot of the time to practice. However, some of them will practice on the PAL version because all the controls and everything are pretty much the same.
Right.
It's just a few frames that are different that they have to practice on. I believe it's for edge guarding and stuff.
Except that matters
that could be
so
huge.
much.
It can, and that's why it's such a difference for people going back and forth.
And that's why if you want to play Melee, all you need to do is Fox only, no items, final destination.
Exactly. Fox only, no items, final destination. That's the best Melee you can get. Okay. So, yeah, ARMS. I don't know. Our boy NAKAT was there. He's a Nintendo ambassador, as we mentioned a few episodes back. So, I don't know if he just kind of joined into play because of that or what, but I'm not even sure if this was a Nintendo sanctioned event. I'm pretty sure it wasn't because they were doing online play at a LAN event. They were doing online play because there's no local area connection version of this game, as far as I know. So, anyways, in his first round, NAKAT beat Nevitz 2-1, and then he lost to Busta 0-2.
Busta.
Unfortunately,
that's a great
Busta.
Name. That's a great name.
It's actually one of my cat's names. He then lost.
Damn, I didn't know your cat played ARMS.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, my cat beat NAKAT in ARMS. Yeah, he just kind of punched him around a few times. He then lost by disqualification to Kepler. I believe he just didn't show up for it. I don't know why. Again, just like PewPewU, he just I don't know. There was nothing on Twitter that we could find, so
come on, man, got to save those secret strats for the Evo ARMS tournament.
Exactly, right? All right, so that is our Melee info updates. So, again, just so you guys know, Evo coming up this weekend, the 14th to 16th. Check that out. If you're a Smash fan or an ARMS fan or freaking whatever.
Or an NVC or what's the DC one? Injustice.
Injustice 2, yeah, Injustice 2 just came out. Yeah. All right, so why don't we move on to Overwatch? NAKAT, what happened to Waffletastic? Because we haven't seen him playing in a little while.
Yeah, so we mentioned a little bit about Waffletastic and his potential replacement SilkThread last week on the podcast. And now we actually have official confirmation from the CLG website. Yes. So Waffletastic was a DPS member on the CLG Overwatch team, and he was on the team for about 7-ish months.
Yeah.
I want to say he was part of the original roster when the team was originally formed. However, the CLG staff felt that there were some changes that needed to be made, and he is, as of now, no longer on the team. He will be moving to a different team at some point. And SilkThread is the player which they will be fielding for the Overwatch BEAT Invitational. Now, this is a minor. And it didn't officially say that SilkThread is the new member. They just said that they'll be fielding him, they'll be using him for some events. So that tells me that they're still potentially trying him out, still trying to figure out what they want.
And I just want to mention that this news came out after the Overwatch BEAT Invitational happened. So everyone knew because they had to tell the roster, say the roster ahead of time that it was going to be SilkThread, and everyone was asking, well, what happened to Waffle? What happened to Waffletastic? And they didn't announce it until after the Invitational happened that they were going to be, that he was no longer with us.
Right, and that's why we mentioned last week that there was no official confirmation.
Yes.
Right. So let's go on to the results of the tournament.
Yeah.
Immediately off, CLG actually is placed directly into the quarterfinals, and they go off against Immortals.
Ugh.
And Immortals just seems to be doing really well in a lot of esports because they kind of kicked our ass. It was 3-1.
Yeah. It's kind of a brutal showing. I mean, Immortals is a top Overwatch team, I believe. They are one of the best. Aside, like, in the bracket that we got, there was also FNRGFE. I have no idea what that stands for. They were the top seeded team in this bracket against us, and Immortals was second place, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to say FNGRFE was the team previously known as, was it Denial?
Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't really look into it.
It was one of the ones that didn't really have a name and was just sort of randomly put together.
Yep. So we ended up losing round 1, so that means we got knocked into the losers final, or the losers round.
Yeah, from there we actually 2-0, and then we just have a complete stomp over Luminosity Gaming Evil.
Yep. We definitely crushed them.
And, we've got a little bit of momentum, and we're going into the losers round 2 up against Arc 6. Now, unfortunately, we don't win that. Momentum's able to give us one game, but we lose the series 1-2.
Oh.
So, from there, we actually place 5th, 6th at the Overwatch BEAT Invitational.
Yeah.
So, not too great of a showing, but when you have a new roster or a new player on the team, things are always a little different.
Exactly. It's especially because he's only been playing for a couple of tournaments, so it's one of those things where the synergy and all that's not really 100% there.
Yeah, synergy is definitely an overused word, but it's still a really real thing.
Especially in Overwatch, because you have 6 players playing, you really need to know that if I activate my ultimate, is my team going to blindly trust me?
No.
To activate theirs as well. And at this point, you could definitely tell there were some times where people were just kind of going in. I believe it was actually Silk-Thread would go in and he had his ultimate ready, but died with it. So you gotta wonder.
Come on, trusting your team to do something.
Right? Oh, it was Shake. I'm sorry. It was Shake would go in and he would have his ultimate and they would just kept dying.
I mean, that sounds like when we play.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Except we never get to the point where we have our ultimates. We're just dead.
We're just awful. Dead. Oh, I'm awful with Overwatch. If it was just an FPS like CSGO, I'd be fine. But the fact that there's ultimates and abilities, that just
Yeah, let me know when there's competitive Fire Emblem. I'll play that.
Yeah. I'll play competitive Fire Emblem. That sounds like my stuff.
I can think. I just don't have the reaction time.
Exactly. I need a few minutes to think. It'll be like chess. You get a timer. You get 90 minutes.
There we go. That'd actually be kind of fun. But
it actually would be.
I feel like it might be a little bit of a niche market.
Just a little bit. It's hard enough to get Fire Emblem games released in English over here. Yeah. All right, guys. So that's CLG for the week of July 3rd, 2017. That is what happened.
Yep. So everyone, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you do, the CLG Faithful Podcast is a weekly podcast. We cover all things CLG. If you like what we do, or you have any suggestions, feedback, or just general comments, you can message us on Twitter. So please do follow us on that. You can subscribe on YouTube and leave a comment on our channel or the episode itself. Or you can also just email us directly at clgfaithful@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
And
we do love getting feedback, so send us your thoughts, and we promise to respond.
Yeah, and if you do listen to us on iTunes or Google Play or even SoundCloud, please do give us a rating, because that actually helps us, and it helps us appear a lot more when people just generally search podcasts or CLG stuff. Yeah. Or even esports.
Esports in general. It's awesome.
So yeah, just take a little bit of time. Please do all those things if you get. And if you want to actually talk to us, we do have a Discord channel.
Yeah, we do. We'll put a link in the description of whatever you are listening to us on, be it YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, whatever. You just click that little read more button and the link will be right there.
Yeah, so with that, Archon, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Archon1680. You can also find me on twitch.tv/Archon1680.
And if anyone cares, I am Nefarious. That's NEFARI0USS. You can find me on Twitter. And actually, if you want to join us in the club we have on League, you can find us on that too.
Yeah, you can just add Nefarious, or you can add Artren with no numbers after it, ARTREN, either one of us. And then when we accept your friend request, we will invite you to the club. Just give us a shout that that's what you wanted for.
Absolutely. And just as one final note, I want to bring up one post that was made on the CLG subreddit today.
Oh, yes.
I think you know which one I'm talking about.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Please do share.
Man, so on the sub, there is a little 4-panel comic that was posted by someone. And the title is, If Hotshot Had a Child. And what it is in the first panel, two parents, or new parents, and they have a child. They're all happy and whatnot. Father says, "You're my son, and no matter what, your mother and I will love you always." Then the baby says, "TSM Bay Life." Next panel is babies in a box that says "Free Disappointment." Comes with the boat.
Come out by the trash.
That was actually really good. I like that.
It was good. And I'm pretty sure that comic was made for that, possibly. That does actually look like Lily Pichu. With the pink hair. Who knows? Who knows? All right, guys. Again, thank you very much for listening, and peace out.
Yeah, this is CLG Faithful signing off.